Hello everyone, this is Isaac Schaff with the USA Severe Weather Network and Storm Community. This will be a briefing on inland impacts from tropical depression or former tropical storm Cristobal. So as of 1 o'clock p.m. Central Daylight Time, the making of this video would be about an hour ago. Oh, okay, so this is actually the 10 a.m., the intermediate. They're not doing the intermediate one. So again, this is 10 a.m. this morning, so 15 Zulu. So the central low that was associated with Tropical Storm Cristobal is 30 or about 15 miles east of Monroe, but now it's getting closer to areas east of Little Rock. And the maximum sustained winds, not accounting for gusts, was around 35. The present movement was northwest at 15 miles per hour and at 995 millibars as of this morning. So here's a satellite loop. You can see getting close to see this area of circulation here, this parent circulation here. All of this moisture, these high-level bands of moisture, this is low-level moisture here being indicated at the bottom here. That is moisture that is circulating. So this is moisture that's being indicated further aloft here. There's a lot of convection brewing here. You can see some storms and some more discrete activity here occurring here on the western end here. This is where we're going to see more of the stormy side of things here on the eastern end here. So again, looks like the upper level circulation continues to be near the Arkansas-Louisiana border, with the low-level moisture again pushing across. Or this is moisture that is closer to the ground, but still several miles or kilometers off here, further east here. This is all this high-level moisture that's circulating around. This is where the more concentrated downdrafts are, where the heavy rain is. We got more discrete areas, so this is where we're going to see more of the storms associated with this. And again, significant flash flooding is possible here. Just looking at the northwest quadrant here, where all of this low-level moisture is tapping off, and there's drier air further aloft. So this this moisture is nowhere else to go but down. So we're going to see some concentrated downdrafts, heavy downpours. Definitely a concern with this, and some discrete storms here on this end that may produce damaging winds and possibly a couple tornadoes. And we'll be taking a look here at a cold front further west. We'll show you guys that soon. So here's the 1 o'clock p.m. Central Daylight Time watch warning and advisory map. So as you can see, a broad part of the southern Mississippi Valley into the Missouri Valley and into parts of eastern Iowa, western Illinois, and southern Wisconsin, and a little bit of Minnesota as well, under these flash flood watches. Again, this is being issued for the potential for over 3 inches of rain, potentially up to 5 inches in some locations. And you can also see there are some wind advisories here across parts of the the Mississippi Valley, and also into sections of the plains as well. You can also see some high wind warnings that are in effect. And further west here, you can see that much drier air. Again, the red flag warnings over sections of the Four Corners region and to the panhandles of Oklahoma and Texas. There is much drier air in that zone, and all of this, and you can see the more moisture-related headlines are, concentrated with Cristobal. And as you can see, we already have flash flood and river flood warnings that are in effect over a broad portion of this general area. And again, we may see some more rivers crest in this area. And we're also talking severe storms here. Again, mostly those low-top storms capable of producing some damaging winds and tornadoes, possibly maybe even some small hail, especially as that cold front continues to push east over the plains here. That enhanced risk is present from areas such as Fargo, Moorhead, Watertown, West Fargo, and Mitchell, South Dakota, and Minnesota. Also extending towards areas around Valentine and Aberdeen. Again, a lot of these areas in the plains here, we're talking another wave of energy. This is going to be the same wave that will interfere with the low associated with Cristobal. And And again, those storms today will definitely have that chance to produce some high winds and probably some hail, because the air is much drier and cooler aloft over that way. For sure. And here's tomorrow. As you can see, these two risk areas, these two systems will kind of congeal with each other. There is a small slight risk over sections of eastern Nebraska and northeast Kansas. However, there is a broad slight risk, and we may be talking about some localized upgrades, especially areas further east of the central low of Cristobal here. This is from areas around Chicago, Peoria, just east of St. Louis towards Evansville, much of central into southern parts of Illinois, much of central and western Indiana, parts of Kentucky and western Tennessee, also including Jackson and areas north of Memphis, and probably a bit of Nashville as well. The rest of the areas in a marginal risk for some generally localized storms that may again produce some damaging winds. And again, there is that tornado threat. Again, because there will be some low top storms. We'll show you what we're talking about here in a minute. So here's the surface analysis here. We're going to take a look at that. Here's the low associated with Cristobal here. So the Hurricane Center, now it's a tropical depression here. Centered just east of Monroe towards Little Rock. I think this was from earlier during the advisory here. This is now tracking towards areas around Greenville, Memphis, surrounding areas in the southern Mississippi Valley. As you can see, we have a stationary frontal boundary here. We got this is just a general boundary that's sagging a little ways north here ahead of Cristobal here. As you can see, it is very humid here, temperatures in the 70s, dew points in the low 70s as well. And when you're talking about dew points well into the 70s and all of this humidity, these are generally values that, there's lots of moisture, even at the surface, to work with. So again, a lot of this moisture, especially further aloft, this is tropical moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. And again, this is going to account for, quite a bit of low-level shear and probably some updrafts. So again, we are going to be watching that very closely here. And I'm going to show you the models here. As you can see, the tropical characteristics with Cristobal, as that interferes with that front. See, it interferes with that front, that wave pushes that into the St. Lawrence Valley. And we have another low that may congeal on the back side of it. And we can see some localized discrete storms on the eastern end. And some frontal storms as well heading into later on Tuesday, early in Wednesday here. And as you can see with those discrete storms, those will be low-topped storms for the most part. We can definitely see some high-low level shear. And those low-level discrete storms, some of those could be supercells as well. So keep that in mind. But again, this is the NAM 3 kilometer, the North American Model 3 kilometer. So this is a convection-allowing NAM. And this is what we look at to get an idea of what storms will have the potential to be supercells or how high-topped they are. You can see the higher colors of the more higher-topped storms. So again, a lot of that tropical moisture. As you can see, that there it is again. A lot of this moisture concentrated on the western end. That is going to be producing heavy rain over a broad swath of the Mississippi Valley into the plains as well. And there's that frontal activity that may also produce some storms over that area as well. So this is just one model indication. We're going to take a look at another here. This is the high-resolution rapid refresh. And you can definitely tell there's more convection on the eastern end here that'll push through the mid-south. And especially during the daytime here, when we have more sunshine to work with, there's that front, there's that extratropical system there. You can see there's a source of lift that is definitely going to be present over that area. And again, as this storm continues to work its way north, and there's that sticky air mass that's going to be in place here. Initial guidance was, suggesting this was going to be a tropical cyclone or a post-tropical cyclone, even as far north as Illinois. However, now it's kind of congealing with this frontal system, so this could result in more discrete storms. They're not going to be as clustered, so keep in mind this could be an indication that there could be more spread out storms. They could be organized where we could see scattered to numerous potential severe storms here. We're going to to see what the Storm Prediction Center has to say here in later outlooks. But this is what we're talking about here. So we're going to look at the surface-based CAPE values. They're pretty weak, but there's some modest CAPE values being indicated here. This is based off of the surface here. And as that pushes into the Ohio Valley, it kind of weakens during the night. And you can see that front really push in over Nebraska, and there's that tropical cyclone. It really waves around. There's a lot of low-level helicity that'll potentially be in place here. And with that surface-based lift and with that high dew points that are definitely around, and combine this with the low-level shear, as you can see, that tropical system here has been producing lots of shear, but it really ramps up with this front here. We'll show you here in just a second here. That front has around 50 knot shear. This is just within a kilometer aloft. This is not high level. So again, when you're talking about winds increasing about 50 miles an hour, comparing it from the surface to aloft, this is really going to drive storms. There's going to be a lot of vertical shear, probably lots of directional shear, and this is going to be what fuels a lot of the storm movement indications here. The wind fields are going to be just right for some form of some high winds, even some convective downdraft winds here, and potential for a couple of tornadoes here across the areas generally east of the Mississippi Valley, but they could spin up anywhere here along where the values here are a little bit higher. And last but not least, let's share the QPF rainfall estimates here. As you can see, the highest rainfall is concentrated where a bunch of that moisture circulates on the west end here. So the west end of the system, near the low pressure, the central low itself, especially areas to the west here, we're talking potential 3 to 5 inch rainfall amounts stretching. Like, this is additional rainfall, not rainfall that has already happened. We've been talking about 6 to maybe 10 inches of rain that may have occurred in areas of Louisiana and Arkansas here, and a lot of that high level moisture. And again, that since the air is stable in that area, the air is not growing upscale, it has to go down. So all this rain will be falling, especially over this swath here. We could be talking about significant flash flooding concerns here, 3 to 5 inches, maybe even some heavier totals with thunderstorms, with more concentrated and embedded downdrafts. Those can produce much heavier totals. So again, this is going to lead to some potential significant flash flooding concerns. Again, remember to avoid flooded areas. Again, this is going to be a potential dangerous situation. So to wrap this up here, we got elevated to significant impacts. Again, low top storms with tornadoes and damaging winds over generally a lot of the mid-south, lower to mid-Mississippi Valley, sections of the Midwest, Wabash Valley area as well. We're generally talking about, again, 3 to 5 inches of rain, some embedded heavier totals. Generally on the west end of the system where the highest low-level moisture is present. We're going to be talking about some, even outside of storms, some isolated wind gusts approaching 45 to 60 miles per hour. Again, that is surface base, the gusts in the system where the mixed layer, air from just above the surface mixes in at the ground. Again, winds, especially where the pressure is lower, further aloft, it's not generally just the surface, the pressure is going to be much lower aloft here. And if where the pressure does change rapidly, we may see some gusts locally exceed 60 miles per hour. So potential dangerous travel for high-profile vehicles and semis. And remember, we want to be careful with this. Again, very dangerous flooding expected here, and with the potential tornadoes, again, these may be brief, but they may, be really intense as well. So we want to keep an eye on that. And as these approach the location, again, we may also see wind damage, weak structural damage outside of storms as well, again, with the winds. So again, please keep an eye on that and know where to go if there is a tornado. Again, go to a basement away from windows. Again, that's the best place to be. Get under something sturdy. Again, get out of mobile homes or non-substantial buildings. You want to be in a site-built building. Again, get as far away from the outside as possible. If that does become an issue, again, have a way to receive audible weather warnings, preferably through your smartphone. Have your wireless emergency alerts turned on, and make sure your NOAA weather radio is working as well and programmed for your county, so you can receive a audible alarm to let you know that storms are approaching your area. So again, this is just a brief overview of post-tropical storm Cristobal and expected impacts over the mid-south, lower to mid-Mississippi Valley area. Again, please be safe, and we'll see you soon.